All right, I'm gonna start out with a rap. It explains my whole life cycle. This is my last lecture. We had to get all my good stuff in. Dr. P. Let me kick my credentials. OG with academic essentials. SF, 3rd Street and Paloux. You on the corner, you don't know what to do. I used to walk into libraries, take the tray down. You say a word, it was academic spray down. I was lucky because I never caught the hard line. I knew my facts. It's all about drop a dime. All my homies died, caught the penzo. Lost their diamonds, cops stole their benzos. Living that life was the cause of it. Fast laning, bunch of bullshit. Language and its connection with social interaction. A cursory examination of the English language and racism. Authored by, edited for Dr. David Piper, AKA Dr. P. Now, Ossie Davis in 1967. Now, the 60s were beautiful because everything happened in the 60s. Everything. Change, everything. Indelible marks left by a group of people who thought they could make some change. But Ossie Davis, 1967, defined communication as the primary means by which the process of education is accomplished. He said that language is the primary medium of communication in the education process, and in this case, the English language. He indicted the English language as one of the prime carriers of racism from one person to the next. His concerns were brought about by his examination of Roget's Thesaurus of the English Language, which revealed the following facts. The word black, blackness has 120 synonyms. That's back in the 60s now. 60 of which were distinctly unfavorable, none of them even mildly positive. Among the offending 60s were such words as smut, smudge, sullied, begrimed, dingy, murky, threatening, frowning, foreboding, forbidden, deadly, unclean, dirty, unwashed, foul, funky, stinky, nasty, etc., etc., etc. In addition to these villainous 60 were 20 other words that were related directly to people, melanin endowed people, such as Negro, Negress, Nigger. Now that's different from nigger. That's nigger. That's a nasty word. Darky, blackamoor, spade, coon, etc., etc. Now, whiteness, 134 synonyms, 44 of which favorable, pleasing to contemplate. For example, purity, cleanliness, immaculateness, bright, shiny, ivory, fair, blonde, straightforward, genuine, trustworthy. You can take my word for it. Only 10 synonyms of which Ossie felt that they had a negative sense of implication, and only in the mildest sense, such as gloss over, whitewash, gray, wan, ashen, white lie, pale, etc., etc., and ours. What is language? Well, scientists, historians, researchers, have asked themselves that question up until this very day. But they can only hypothesize where, when, how language all began. Remember, this is a cursory examination, briefly. Atkinson, a biologist at Auckland in New Zealand, Auckland University, he suggested some very important findings. That language, one, only originated once, and the specific place of origin was southwestern Africa. The birth of modern language, examined by Atkinson, he zeroed in on phonemes of over 500 languages around the world. By applying statistics and some other mathematical methods to linguistics, he discovered that the further humans traveled from Africa, the fewer number of phonemes survived. Makes sense. If you migrate and you come upon a new environment, new experiences, you have to find some language to describe to the other person what you experience. So things changed. But, next slide. Michael Sisau, something. Yeah. He published a commentary in Science that says this little neat out of the Africa hypothesis for the origin of language was not supported by the data. The problem being that the relationship language has with the environment or society can only be reliably traced as far back as 10,000 years ago. And rumor has it that human beings have been on the earth longer than 10,000 years. So we still don't have an answer right now to this day. But my next brother, Noam Chomsky, linguistic expert, MIT University. He said he wasn't even concerned about the origin of language. He said the connection between the human psyche and speech is far more complicated than you can even realize. Language is but one of the ways in which we communicate with one another. One of the ways. It conveys not only thought, but emotion. The main use of language is to transfer thoughts from one brain to another. Thought comes first. Language is an expression of your thoughts. In 2004, he said, quote, "Language thus becomes indispensable, not only for the construction of the world of thought, but also for the construction of the world of perception. Is only is because you think it is." If you go to the library at Mission College and look at that big old rusty, dusty Webster dictionary, you're going to find 5 or 6 pages defining the word black, 7 or more pages defining the word white. Measure for yourself. Sounds evolved into symbols. Alphabets are symbols, so they must represent sound. And those alphabet symbols are used to construct words. Words are connected to form sentences. Those word sentences are used to convey concepts, images, representations, something that stands for something else. Let that sink in. Something that stands for something else, whether that be tangible or intangible. Word sentences represent a mental concept that is based on socially constructed reality. Now, what is socially constructed reality. The 60s, the time for change and indelible imprints. Peter Berger and Thomas Luckman in 1966 said, persons and groups interacting in a social system create, over time, concepts or mental representations of each other. And these concepts eventually become habituated into reciprocal roles played by the actors in relationship to each other. Shakespeare said, the world's a stage and everybody got a role to play. Play your role the best way you can. They continued with, when these roles are made available to other members of society to enter into and play out, them children y'all be raising, the reciprocal interactions are said to be institutionalized. You pass it down 4 or 5 generations, it's locked in, just like the weaving in this carpet. In the process of this institutionalization, meaning is embedded in society. Meaning. And since we have moved to Mars, the language hasn't changed. Knowledge and people's conception of what reality is becomes embedded in the institutional fabric of society. Reality is therefore said to be socially constructed. A lie is as good as the truth if somebody believes it. Words are symbols that give meaning to the world about us. The power of words is such that the pervasiveness of positive and negative meanings for words can easily influence minds and attitudes. You gotta watch what you say. Watch who you say it to. Symbols, words, sentences, and behavior are the core elements in the communication and language use process. Language constructs thoughts. Thoughts drive and inform behavior. Behavior denotes belief. Belief generates action, and action always results in reaction or consequences. Word/language reflects culture. Culture is learned behavior acquired chiefly through verbal communication or language. Language and language use are socially constructed. Through word language, we have constructed a culture of racism. The word black is just as salient as the words Negro, Negress, nigger, darky, blackamoor, spade, coon. The word white is just as salient as the words purity, cleanness, immaculateness, bright, shiny, ivory, fair, blonde, white lie. But both have served to construct what Dr. Martin Luther King said in 1967. He described it as a nation moving toward two societies, one black, one white, separate and unequal. So, the English language is my enemy. I will define communication as the primary means by which the process of education is accomplished. I will say that language is the primary medium of communication in the educational process, and in this case, the English language. I will indict the English language as one of the prime carriers of racism from one person to another in our society. Ossie Davis, 1967. That's the references. If you ask me for the, hold it right there. Click on this doll. This experiment was done to help get Brown versus the Board of Education passed with the Supreme Court.
Which doll is the ugly doll?
Gear was the psychologist.
Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
Which doll looks most like you?
Like me?
Yeah, which one looks like you?
Focus on the children's
And
expression.
Okay.
that doll.
Can you show me the doll that you like best or that you like to play with?
This one. I like that one.
Okay.
Of course, now this is on the East Coast.
That one?
I can't even imagine this happening on the West Coast.
I like to play with this.
And can you show me the doll that is the nice doll? And why is that the nice doll?
He's white.
And can you show me the doll that looks bad? Okay. And can you give, and why does that look bad?
Because it's black.
And why do you think that's a nice doll?
Because she's white.
And can you give me the doll that looks like you? 15 out of the 21 children preferred the white doll.
So it's not just Mission College. This shit is spread all over the world. And all that's the references and stuff, because I know somebody's going to question, you know, my shut up. So I'm ready, brother. I'm ready. I got my backup. Okay, so that's it.